Let's get back to the drawing board here. Should be proud, but if you think you understand what they were, you don't. You're right, correct. Okay. Okay, let's go. You talk about it at breakfast. So the more we're holding in the Gemara, with the Gemara is equating get shichror to get isha. It says they are on equal, they're on par regarding in four situations. So Gemara's question: why isn't the Shema mentioned? It's not one of the three things that are on Yuram Testament base. We call the Shema, Gemara says Bishlam and the Rabbo. According to Rabbo, what it says Moluchu maybe, that's one of the things that we equate to get isha, get shich to get isha. Correct? For funny fun nech. So according to Rabba, that the purpose, the reason why it's fun nech is because they're not beking lishma, they're not proficient lishma. Hainu Moluchu maybe elu Rabba kasha. According to Rabba, it's difficult. Because Rabba says, what is the shliach say funny nech to funny nech? Because you're not able to locate witnesses to substantiate the document. V'su. Secondly, name the Rabbi and the Rabbo equal Mechuber. Everybody agrees Mechuber is puzzled by get Isha, and by what? By get Shichr. Why get Isha? Because it says V'kosav v'nosam. You write it and you give it. There should be no interruption in the writing and the giving. And why by get Shichr, Ernie? Get Shichr. Yeah. Why is Mechuber puzzled? If you write it when it's attached to the tree or it's on a leaf, because that's lolo, Gzera Shava.
But Rameir holds not.
But that's for a different reason. Rameir holds not. Correct. But what about if you sign it on the tree? And then you cut it? Rameir would agree. Of course. Because it's attached. At the time of the sign, it's attached. It's a problem. Okay? So more says, and more answers. Kik Tony Psula Drabanan. When we're equating get Shichra to get Isha, that's only we're dealing with what? Rabbinic invalidations. Doraisa look Tony. Mechuber is a psul doraisa, that's an invalidation on a Torah level, it's not rabbinical. Somebody's question about Erkos, Shelvit Kochovim. It says in the Mishnah that for any monetary document, Erkos, a non-Jewish court, non-Jewish witnesses are sufficient for the document, Dina Malchus and Dina. But for get Isha and get Shichrur, if it's issued by a non-Jewish court or the witnesses aren't Jewish, it's not valid. So why is it not valid? It's psul doraisa, because they're not qualified to be witnesses. Uktani. Our answer is be'edi mesiro chreblozer. That when the Mishnah says that you're relying on the certification of the court, non-Jewish court, we're speaking about it's edi mesiro. So if you have edi mesiro, what's the halacha? If you have edi mesiro and you have non-Jews sign on that document, on a Torah level, it's not a problem. But rabbinically, it's what? Mezuyif b'tocha, because there's a chance you may rely on those witnesses. So, but you can't rely on those witnesses. So what gives the get its force? What gives the get its force is that Jewish witnesses witness the transfer from the husband to the wife. So why do we invalidate it? By Erkos, Shalom V'Kochovim, when it's certified, when the document is issued by the non-Jewish court, and it's signed by non-Jews, that's rabbinical. Because there's a concern you may rely on these witnesses, which you have no right to rely on those witnesses. Uktani, okay? Somewhere asks, so we're saying now that the ratio, when it says we equate get isha and get shichra, that if it's issued by a non-Jewish court and non-Jewish witnesses, it's possible, it's rabbinical. Only rabbinical. Why? Because it's Eid Mesira. So it says, well, Seifa, but if you read the conclusion of the Braiso, it's Reb Shimon Omer, Af Eluk Sheri. That even in that situation, it's valid. And why is it valid? Why is it valid? Meaning, if it's issued by a non-Jewish court and the witnesses are goyim, it's valid. There's only one way it can be valid. It's going like Reb Lozer. So evidently, if it's going like Reb Lozer, so when it's said, the Tanakamu says that it's not valid, it must be going like Reb Meir, right? So if that's the case, so you see we're dealing with a psul doraisa. The Brisa is citing, equating get and get shichur, get isha, get shichur on where the invalidation is a Torah invalidation, not a rabbinical validation, right? That's the first question.
How do you see it?
We're answering. We said the reason why it doesn't mention mechuber is because we're dealing with rabbinical invalidations, not Torah invalidations. Mechuber is a Torah invalidation. Okay? Says, what do you mean? We say that if non-Jew sign on the get, it's possible. Seemingly that's a Torah invalidation. This right? Mar says, no, it's going like Rabbi Lozer. Because what gives the get its force? The Jewish witnesses who witness is the transfer from the husband to the wife. Right. So why do we disqualify the get? We validate it because you have non-Jewish witnesses signed in the get, and we're concerned you may rely on those witnesses. Let's say you can't locate the Edi Masira, who initially what witnessed the giving of the get. So how do you know whether the get's valid? You say, well, it has witnesses, but those witnesses are not reliable. So that's a gzera. So I'm disqualifying the get because of a gzera, because of this fence. Okay? But that's only, it would be drabonon if it's going like Rabbi Loza, Edi Masira Karsi. The conclusion of Bryce Reb Shimon says no, af eluk sherim, that even this situation is kosher. How could it be kosher? How could it be kosher if the Edim are not Jewish? So what are you going to answer me? It's going like Rabbi Loza, Edi Masira Karsi. So why does Tanakama invalidate it? It must be because it's going like Reb Meir, right? That Edi Chasima Karsi. So if you have non-Jewish witnesses signing on the get, it's possible on Midoraisa. So we're getting back to the question. So why doesn't it say Mechuber? Right? You can't. The answer of that without discussing Torah invalidations is not correct. Let's see it. Vom Reb Zero, and Reb Zero goes to explain the position of Reb Shimon. Yorad Reb Shimon l'shitos Reb Lozer. The Reb Shimon assumed the position of Reb Lozer. Dom Edi Masira Karsi. That what gives the get its force? Jewish witnesses witnessing the transfer of the get. So therefore, the non-Jews who sign on the get, that doesn't disqualify it on Torah level. Mechlal the Tanakh. What? Yeah, you hold Lishma. Who, the Tanakhama? No. No, the Lishma is going on, it's going like Rabbi Lozer. The Lishma is going on the actual get that's written. Not on the witnesses. So what gives the get its force? Witnesses witness the transfer from the husband to the wife. Okay? So the Gemara says, what do you use the term? Yorad. Yorad Reb Shimon l'shitos or Reb Lozer. Not sure. The only reason why we say maybe Yorad is because Reb Shimon was of a certain dimension, and Reb Lozer was less. So that he assumed the position of a lesser person, that's called Yorad. He came down to assume that position. There's Reb Shimon, Reb Yehuda. They were the primary Tanoim. Dom Edi Masira Karsi. So Bechlal Tanakama Sovar Lo. So Tanakama holds what not. What he holds Edi Chasima Karsi. So when the Reisha says that if you have non-Jewish witnesses sign on the get, why is it possible? Midoraisa. So if we're speaking about Psul Doraisa, so what does it say? Mechuber. Equate get Isha to get Shichro. In what context? If it was written when it was attached, then you detached it afterwards. So why does it mention it? Mar says no. Ikabinayu Shemus Mufokim. That the only time Reb Shimon permits when you have non-Jews, it's only where the witness who signed, the non-Jews, it's obvious. It's obvious they're not Jewish.
Obvious not Jewish names.
They're not Jewish names, right? Barack Obama, right? Signed on the get. Okay? There's no way you think he's the chief rabbi of some uptown Orthodox, whatever it is, Jewish meeting hall. 92nd Street, why they're looking for somebody. Okay? So according to Tanakama, we say lo plug. We don't differentiate whether it's obvious, whether it's Kirkpatrick or Moynihan, or it's what, or it's whatever, Swartz, without the CH, right? Or somebody else. It's all the same. Reb Shimon makes a difference. He says, no, if it's obvious they're not Jewish, we know, we're not concerned, you may rely on those witnesses. So if you're able to locate the Edi Masira, you could substantiate the fact that they were Edi Masira, it's a valid get. Because the only reason why I'm invalidating is because of the Gzeira. Because you may rely on not Jewish witnesses. Tanakama says even if it's Shemus Mufokim, it's obviously non-Jewish names, so the get is disqualified. But why am I disqualifying it? Rabbinically. Rabbinically.
Why rabbinically disqualifying? Because why?
Because people will not differentiate.
No, but if it's names that are clearly...
No,
Christian
again,
names.
excuse me. The reason is that we're concerned people will not make they said, see, that get was kosher, although it had a non-Jewish name on it. I know that this person's not Jewish, so why am I disqualifying the get? Why am I invalidating the get? Because people don't understand the rationale, what determines, what's the basis of the disqualification. You understand?
We hold that it's 80 Masira, right? That's what...
So why rabbinically, if you have non-Jewish witnesses, sign it
Because
where it's not obvious that they're not Jewish?
Right, so we're concerned that they'll be the 80 Masira.
Not they'll be the 80 Masira. Not they'll be the 80 Masira. You're going to rely on them that there were 80 Masira.
We're going to rely on them that...
Why would Rabbi Gamliel legislated that you should have 80 chasima regardless, right? That's tikkun olam. Why? What happens if the 80 Masira go overseas?
Right.
So what if the woman is in a bind? And the husband says, I never gave it. So if you have 80 chasima, what does 80 chasima say? The witnesses wouldn't have signed the get on behalf of the woman. They signed the get on behalf of the husband. So now the document with witnesses had to come into the possession of the woman. Evidently, the husband had given, because the witnesses are not going to sign for the woman.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
Good. But let's say those witnesses would be non-Jewish witnesses. Doesn't indicate anything. Because non-Jewish witnesses have no value.
On a get, or get shit for it.
On any document. Any document. On a Torah level, they have no value. Right? They have no, because the testimony, they're not trustworthy. Any star, nothing. They have no value.
Right.
Correct?
Right.
So therefore, that would be a Torah violation. That would be a Torah law. That's not rabbinic. It's not a rabbinic fence. If you need 80 chasima and they're non-Jews, it has no value.
Fine.
Okay, good. So we're saying the Tanakam holds 80 Masira Karsi, as Reb Shimon. 80 Masira Karsi. But if you have non-Jewish witnesses sign it, what are people, and the name is Kirkpatrick and Moynihan,
Right.
right? So what are people going to say? You see, even though we have non-Jews signing on the document,
Right.
it's a valid document. That's what people are going to say. So if you have a name which it's not clear that it's not a non-Jew, and you had 80 Masira, a person will say the same thing. You see that even though you have a non-Jew signing a document, as long as you have 80 Masira, the document's valid. But it's not true, it's not valid. Because there's a chance where you're not going to be able to locate those 80 Masira, and you're going to substantiate the get based on the 80 Chasima, thinking that they're Jewish, but they're not Jewish. That's the argument, Tanakama and Reb Shimon. Do I say, look, we don't differentiate? Well, even though it's blatantly obvious they're not Jewish, we disqualify the document because of a situation where it's not obvious? Or do I make that differentiation? Where it's obvious there's no basis to be concerned? The basis to be concerned, so where it's not obvious that they're not Jewish. That's Dina Malchusadina. That's Dina Malchusadina. Verification. Verification. Correct.
But here, the differentiation seems to be that the get needs more than that. It's not really...
No. If you hold like Rebbe Lozer, the witnesses on the document is verification.
Right.
Rebbe Lozer?
According to Rebbe Lozer, if the witness that sign on the get.
He doesn't hold by signing.
No, but everybody agreed. Rebbe Gamliel legislated that even according to Rebbe Lozer, you should have witnesses sign.
Fine.
Because if you can't locate the 80 Masira, what are you going to do? How's the woman going to prove?
Non-Jews sign on that get.
So that's the argument. They're not, definitely you can't rely on them.
You can't rely on them because...
Because they have no status.
But if you hold by 80 Masira, 80 Masira...
But let's say you can't locate the 80 Masira.
Just for 1 second though, let's say you have 80 Masira really effectuates the get. That's what does it.
Correct.
Right. So if you have 2 non-Jews signing on the get, and you have 80 Masira with 2 Jews, the get is good. So why are we concerned if there are 2 non-Jews signing on the get?
Okay, let's talk.
Yeah.
The husband comes, he confessed the get. He says, I never gave the woman a get.
Correct.
Avraham is important. He says, the woman wrote the get herself. I never gave the woman the get. He says, what are you talking about? 2 great rabbis witnessed the giving. He said, the 2 rabbis you wrote. She says you're lying. Now, how does the woman prove her case that there were 80 Masira? So let's say that get had 80 Chasima on it.
Right.
Not that they affected the get. They had 80 Chasima.
Right.
Would Jewish witnesses sign the document on behalf of the woman. It's illegal. Right, that's illegal. They would never do such a thing. They're not permitted. It's like signing. Two Jews would sign a document on behalf of a lender that he lent somebody money. That's an illegal document. Who writes the loan document? The borrower. If the lender can write the document, then the borrower has a problem. Right? So the same thing. Who writes the get? The husband has to write the get. So let's say now to prove that the get was written by the husband, you can have witnesses signing that the husband had written the get. Right? Who are they going to sign for? On behalf of the husband, on behalf of the wife? On behalf of the husband. So when the get is now in the possession of the woman, and you have witnesses, valid witnesses on it, what does the witnesses, their being on doc, what does that say? That was initially in the possession of the husband, and now it's in the possession of the wife, because he must leave, otherwise had it come into her possession. But let's say the witnesses on that document are not kosher witnesses, they're goyim. Not forgery. Not forgery. He never gave that piece of paper. She had it written up herself and got two non-Jews to sign. That means nothing. It's like you had two children signing on the document. It means nothing.
Today,
forget about today.
People don't leave with the get. They don't leave with the document, right?
When you finish leaving a restaurant, what do you leave? Do you leave with the meal or do you leave with the bill? Okay. It has no relevance to this.
On the Eraisa level, one doesn't need even for anything. They don't need
That's Machlos Rabbi Elazar and Remeir.
Right.
Right? What effectuates the get? Is it the witnessing of the transfer, or you need the witnesses in the document itself?
Right,
What empowers that piece of paper?
How could Rabbi Elazar even contemplate that kind of idea that you don't need witnesses? I mean,
Signing?
Why would Rabbi Elazar say you don't need anybody signing?
Because
in case the husband comes back and
but that's a rabbinic issue. That's a whole rabbinic. We're talking on a Torah level. That's why Rabbi Leal enacted for that reason.
Sure.
If the husband should come and make trouble, he'll claim, or a woman. A woman could do things, and she'll say she claimed maybe there weren't witnesses. How do we know?
So when would be a better use for the guy to sign that get?
No usage whatsoever. Well, no usage has no value.
Right, but then what do they offer?
Is it mezuyif mitocho? Is it mezuyif mitocho? If you have a problem, if the get itself has something which is not valid in it, does that disqualify the get? Right?
According to Rabbi Elazar, though, if you had two witnesses signing the get, were not valid, disqualifies the get totally. Remember?
What?
If you have two witnesses signing on the get, two non-Jews, it disqualifies the get, disqualifies the document.
Everybody agrees. What about it's not clear that the ones who sign are not Jewish? They may be Jewish, but they are not Jewish. Everybody agrees the get is disqualified, is invalidated rabbinically. What about Shemus Mufokim?
Right.
It's obvious.
Right.
That's the argument here. Since it's obvious, so these witnesses will not be relied upon. So therefore that get is valid as long as we can locate the Edi Masira. But if you can't locate, so the whole question was the get ever given by the husband.
If you hold that Edi Masira parshas, then the guy can sign the get
Midoraisa. Because it's totally superfluous.
Yeah.
So the names are not Edom Mufakim.
Everybody agrees it's possible rabbinically. Rabbinically possible.
And why? I'm sorry. Why? What's the logic there?
Because why do you put witnesses on the get ever? Why do you ever put witnesses on the get? That if the husband should contest its validity, the woman having Edom on the get says that he gave her the get.
Correct.
Otherwise, how did it come into our possession?
Right.
So that's its value.
So we're not sure they're Jewish or not.
No, let's say factually they're not Jewish.
Actually, they're not Jewish. Then
Rabbinically, we invalidate the get
Right,
immediately.
let's say the names are just sort of half. You don't know if they're Jewish or not.
That's the same thing. Same thing. We'll differentiate. Is it obvious they're not Jewish, or it's questionable, or we don't? It's a type of name.
What's the difference then?
Because
Why
we're
do
not
you
going to
have
rely.
in
Because
there?
if it's obvious not Jew, we're not going to rely on them.
But if
We're going to say to the woman, unless you show us who witnessed the giving of that get, or bring other witnesses who witnessed those witnesses having the get transferred, you cannot permit to remarry. No, you don't. But what's the likelihood of finding people who witnessed the get? It's like almost like finding the witnesses themselves. The witnesses, they may have died, they went overseas, who knows what.
So if someone is
No,
That's
it's not only preventing. It's not only preventing the husband coming back. Let's say a woman acts dishonestly. She'll write the get.
the more only talks about the case of the husband coming back, the Metzorah.
And we don't think the woman would rather
Because
do
usually
that.
we say a woman normally wouldn't do
No,
this.
because it's not in their benefit to get divorced. That's what we said.
No. She wants out of the marriage.
I understand, but we said that's an unusual.
The reason, because we say Aran Sari, we say certain people don't forge documents. Most people are not dishonest to the degree that they'll forge a document. So if that's the case, she has it. The presumption is he gave her the get in the presence of witnesses.
Right.
But still, but there's laws. But when it comes to this area, we want it to be above reproach. Now, how do you have it above reproach? That the husband should not be able to even contest it. We're not going to pay attention to the husband. So if you have Eri Chasima, if they're Jewish, it's not a problem. And the husband's not going to come now. Okay?
If a Jew is killed overseas, let's say in war or whatever it is, and the only witnesses to his death are two non-Jews, they show up at base and say, we saw this person killed, that the wife can't remarry, or can remarry.
It was war. Depends if it's war or not war. If a non-Jew would come and say, I was at so-and-so's funeral, and it was Mesich Fitumo, he didn't come to offer official testimony. Mesich Fitumo, he was telling of a story. And in the story, so by the way, I attended a Jewish funeral. So he didn't come to testify officially that the man died or was killed. Then we do believe it, but that's all rabbinical, because over there we annul the marriage to allow the woman to remarry. Like Eid Echad. Eid Echad's belief if a single witness comes, a woman comes.
So if a non-Jew comes back, reports to the wife that says, I saw you, a person saw that person's
Let's say he offers his condolences. He comes, he offers his condolences to the wife.
He saw it happen, yes. Just informing her.
Again, it's not simple. La halacha we hold, even if a Jew would come, he's not believed. Because in a state of war, people may come to certain conclusions which are not reality. You understand? They'll say he was mortally wounded, and maybe he survived. It wasn't a mortal wound. Because there's so many other things around. Let's say he saw the man being put into the ground. Okay, put into the ground, something else. He was interred in the ground, so he was dead. But he says, I saw him being blown to smithereens. Who said it was him? It may have been someone else. I mean, there's so many variables to determine whether your perception in the state of war is accurate. It's not so simple.
I'm sure things like this happen, I guess probably during the Vietnam War. I'm sure things like that happened in 9/11, where someone said, yeah, that person was in the building next to me and didn't make it out. And then they haven't heard from the person since.
It's simple. What about after the Holocaust? People were in camps, they came out, and women permitted to remarry. It was a very big problem after the war. And later, the survivor ended up somewhere else. They said, they marched all the people into the forest, and then they find out that one of them escaped, and they're elsewhere. The husband is elsewhere. Okay, it's a problem. It's not simple.
So let's say, especially a non-Jew actually saw someone 100% no doubt it wasn't during war. And that person reports back to the wife. That wife can't remarry.
It depends in what context he shares that information. If it's official testimony, of course, then we suspect he may be lying. A non-Jew is suspect.
And it falls under the same umbrella of not being able to testify on a get, the same thing.
No. Not being able to testify on a get is that's a doraisa. He's not qualified to testify. Finished. Here, the suspect that he's lying.
He's lying.
Yeah.
It's different.
That's the difference. Okay?
Are they arguing about how far Rabbi Gamliel's common in this case? Rabbi Gamliel comes in and says, for the sake of preventing the husband to come back, we want them to sign the document. That's the goal of Rabbi Gamliel.
But he says, Afe Luk Sherim. He's not saying that the non-Jew is qualified to sign the document. The document is a kosher document. Afe Luk Sherim. Well, if they're not Jews, then it's not sufficient. It's not sufficient.
Are they arguing that the term of what we don't live, or
No.
they're arguing that the name was dead?
They're arguing on the low plug. You know, we don't make differentiations. When something's legislated, although it may not be a problem, but we're still concerned it may be a problem.
So you have to do it, prescribe man, and if you don't do it, prescribe man, it's not valid.
Rabbinically. Okay? It's interesting. Tosa asked a question over here. The Gemara originally said, why is the Mechuber mentioned? Because the Brisa, when it mentions, equates the get Isha, the get Shichur, only rabbinic invalidations, not Torah. So it says, and that's why Mechuber is not mentioned. So Tosis asks, you have a case, you have in a get, you have the Tofes and the Torif. You have the non-essential part of the get, and you have the essential part of the get. What happens if you write the Torah, Tofes, Mechuber, and then you, non-essential. And then you detach it, then you write the Torah if the essential, if it's been detached. On the Torah level, it's kosher. It's valid. But rabbinically, you're not supposed to do it. So, see, yes, even by Mechuber, it's midrabanan. Mechuber, you have a Mechuber drabanan. So what is the mentioned? Yeah? You say, we don't mention Doraisa. So you're right. If the Torah, if the essential part of the get was written when it was attached, that's a Doraisa. What about if the non-essential was written? So why is that mentioned? Get Shichur Get, you should not write the get, the non-essential part of the get, when it's a Mechuber. Because it's a Gzeira that you may write the essential part of the get. That's Tosas Klev. He says, Ki Psul Drabonon, Avagav Dika Na Mechuber Drabonon, Genin Kosen Tov Shemi Yichtov Torif. You're not permitted to write the non-essential part of the get, because there's a concern that you may write the essential part of the get when it's attached. Rabbinically, yeah. So he says, Ikar Mechuber Doraisa. He says, we have to look at, when we speak Mechuber, what is the primary reason why Mechuber we disqualified? That's Doraisa. Yeah. Right? Aval Ikar Molchu maybe Drabonon. Avagav Shel Rabbi Niskin Mishum Lishma Doraisa. Factually, we say, even according to Rameir, we say Stam, we say the proficiency most so from our, there is a small minority which even Rameir, who's Chayshel Miyuta, normally takes the minority into consideration. Even here he agrees, it's infinitesimal. But nevertheless, we don't want the husband to have what to say. So here the whole thing is Drabanan. Mechuber, there's a certain aspect of concern where it is possible in Doraisa. You understand? Yeah. If you write the get, when the essential part of the get, when it's attached, it's a problem. We had a tosis in a Marsha in Beya, which is something similar. The Gemara asked the question that the Mishnah says that Sofik Beya is Osir, is Asura. It's more than that given them a base. Sofik Beya, an egg. It's questionable about the Gemara wants to know what does it mean. It's questionable what the status of the egg is. So the Gemara gave 4 reasons why Beishan Older B'Yom Tov, according to Beis Hillel, why you're not permitted to eat the egg. An egg that was laid on Yom Tov. The 4 reasons given in the Gemara. Okay? So the Gemara says, if you hold like Rabbo, Hachonad Rabbo, it's a Doraisa. It's a Savi Doraisa L'chumra. Was it laid on Yom Tov or was it not laid on Yom Tov? But the other reasons which are given, Mashkin Shezovu, Peirs HaNoshin, because it's similar to liquids being squeezed out of a fruit or a fruit falling off a tree. It's Ravina, which says Savi Draban L'Kula. That's right. That's the worst question. So Marsha over there asks, what about Muktzah? What is Muktzah? Muktzah is also Draban. No. But it's all rabbinical. This is before the Gemara answers that it's a Davsheshel Matirin. This is before it's a Davsheshel Matirin. Why? The Gemara is not asking on the position that Muktzah. So, but Muktzah is Drabanan. One would say Sovi Drabanan L'Kula. Okay? So the Marsha explains why initially did they enact the laws of Muktzah on Shabbos and Drabanan. It's rabbinical, but why? The basis is really its root in a Doraisa. It says like this. Over there the Muktzah means, it says that the Torah says, according to Rabbi Chana de Rabbo, that one day you need an ordinary day to prepare for Shabbos, an ordinary day to prepare for Yom Tov. What about if you have a Shabbos following a Yom Tov or Yom Tov following a Shabbos. So that means one was completed. It was completed on a day which was not a chol. It wasn't an ordinary day, right? It was completed on a day. So therefore, that's the reason why not. What about if you have an ordinary Shabbos or an ordinary Yom Tov where it doesn't precede it or follow it? It's rabbinical. It's a gzeira. The reason why Be'eshnol B'Yom Tov, even though it's not preceded by a Shabbos, you're not permitted because there's a gzeira, Shabbos Achar Yom Tov, or Yom Tov Achar Shabbos. But it's rabbinical. The answer is no, because since over there, the basis for the concern is the Doraisa, even the rabbinic law I treat like a Doraisa. So I'm saying the same idea. He says, Mechuber is, in its essence, is Doraisa. We don't allow you to write the Tofes, because you may write the Torah. Writing Tofes is Rabbanon. But I treat that as a Doraisa, because ultimately, where would that lead? If I would validate that, allow that to be.
Isn't that every gather? Every gather is to...
Right, but Lishma here is not. Here it's because we don't want the husband to come contest the get. Yeah? And now, we don't want the husband to make trouble. Lishma. We said, according to Reb Meir, it's so remote, we're really not concerned. Right? He's normally concerned about these things. But the answer is, if the husband can make trouble, we don't want him to make trouble. Therefore, we want to totally dispel that. Therefore, we have Fonech Fonei Nechtam. Okay. It's for that reason. Okay. Now the Gemara asks a question. Well, Chazor Doraiso, Tony, that if a person gives a get Isha or get Shichror, says he could actually retract, even though the person took possession of the get Shichror and the Isha, because it's a. So we don't say Zochel on Mishal B'Fonov, correct? So because the Rameir holds that the get Shichror is what is a detriment to the slave. It's not beneficial. So the Gemara says El Kiktoni Milsa the less Kedushin. Milsa the is Loktoni. Yeah.
We're just
Fell off the drum. Saying something interesting. If a person wants to divorce his wife against her will, he has the right. If he wants to emancipate a slave and the slave doesn't want to be emancipated, he takes the get and Shikhr and puts it in his hand. It's emancipated. A man wants to marry, doesn't work. So that's what he was saying. Azora, which means discussing that. To receive the get, and before, to be married, and before the man it takes the money, she cancels him. Is she married? Kedusha be balkorcha. She has to consent that the person should receive the money on her behalf. Correct? What about when you make a shliach, emancipate us to divorce a woman, and you want to cancel the shliach? That, in that context, is what? That's balkorcha, right? Whether the woman is agreeable or not, right? He could force that upon the woman, force the emancipation upon the slave. So anything which touches on kedushin, which by kedushin it cannot be balkorcha, we're not discussing that.
So that's the issue.
1 second. So it says v'chazor gufa isa b'kedushin, v'shlichus balkorcha, b'gershin isa u'b'kedushin lesa. Right.
So it's only applies to divorce.
Okay, it's time. Stop here.